Hey there, welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. Today we have on the show a guest that I actually personally reached out to. I saw him on social media. I was like, this human being is doing it right. A person I respect when they show up for their career and what they're doing, but also their family, that the journey they've been through. So I reached out personally. His name is Setema Gali. And the guy, man, he's got a wealth of heart. He's anchored, he's centered, and he shares with us a lot of his own journey of what he battled and went through to go from a guy that was a BYU athlete to playing in the NFL to beyond that, being successful in the realm of real estate and mortgages, then losing it all in the recession of '08, and then building something more powerful beyond that. Not just in himself, but the skills he developed, how he put himself out there in uncomfortable ways to be able to build not just himself, but his family around him, and then so much more that he got to the point of saying, I'm going to lead other people to places like this, specifically leaders, those leading their families, leading their businesses, leading themselves. But I want you to hear how he talks to it, what he actually believes is some of the, we'll call it the points of reference and what's necessary to get to the next level. Because if you're in a place where you feel stagnant or there's something more you haven't quite touched, this man will show you how to reach that. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey, here we go. Welcome to the episode. Today we have someone that, so I typically have a team of people that they go and find amazing guests and they bring them on. And then I did the weird thing for my team because they were like, what's going on? I go, I don't know. I like this dude, man. I see what he does. Respect for how he shows up. So I reached out personally and his team agreed to get on the podcast with me, man. So today we have a person that I've watched from a distance show up as an amazing human that is an example, in my opinion, of like how to live life right, like to have a priority of family, to have a priority of serving people as well from a place of experience. I think when you go to the world and you look what we got, everybody wants to be on stage and speak and talk. But I believe if you have not crossed some finish lines, you should not be telling people how to run the race. This man has crossed finish lines. We're going to talk about the ones he's crossed, as well as how you can look at some nuances from what he can tell you about the race to cross some that he's crossed as well. So without further ado, welcome to the show. Setema, how you doing, man?
My man, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I'm honored and really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too, man. We just so you guys know, we already spent like 10 minutes covering all the good stuff. So you get the leftovers. I'm just kidding. No, we had some cool convos, man. That's the lead into the conversation. However, I always start the episodes with a question, and then I'm going to stop talking as much. I promise you that. And here's a question. I'm walking around Florida. I sit in a coffee shop. There's this humongous boulder mountain of a man sitting next to me. It's you. And for some reason, you feel compelled to turn and start talking to me. In your opinion, why should I listen to you?
Great question. Because I am the world's greatest listener, and I love to get to know people wherever I go. And I love what I do as my calling in life, which is to impact and influence and inspire people. Like, I love it. That's like my mission. One of my missions on this planet is to help human beings unleash their greatest potential.
I like that.
And I love to listen too, man.
There you go. Listening's always good. I do the same thing. I try as best I can. I'm a talker though. You know, one time my best friend, this was years ago, my best friend, his previous wife, she I don't know what it was. She just in the middle of having a conversation, she's like, Anthony, you talk too much. You never let us talk. And it was like young Ann. I was like, oh, damn. And first I was mad. And I was like, it's good information. Like a year later, I got that it was good. So I try to be a phenomenal listener now. But I want to know for you, essentially, where did that come from? Were you always a great listener? Was it something you had to learn? Because a lot of people don't have that skill set or trait.
You know, I grew up in a family of 9 kids. So like kids on older than me, kids younger. And I read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like when I was younger. And it worked. Like it really works. And so it's like, memorize people's names, be more interested in them and what they're up to. And learn about them. And it works in the fact that it makes me feel good. It allows me to get to know people. My wife always jokes. She's like, you're the guy that could get on an elevator, and by the time we get to the 15th floor, you're going to be in that guy's wedding. You're going to be in his line. Yeah. And that's totally me. Like, I get to know people, whether the store, the gym, I get to know people and they become my people.
I like that. I'm the same way. My wife gets bothered when I'm in public and I ask questions of people that I should not be talking to, in her opinion. I do the same thing. I just always feel like there's probably some cool story in this human that if I know it, it may be better for my life, for us. And I've had that happen where I'm like, I'm glad I asked this question. Or they had a conversation and they left better in that conversation. But for me, I know I didn't always have that. Like even though I have a desire to like have friends, I grew up thinking like I'm inadequate. I'm less than. I was one of 6 kids in the family. And so like I didn't have that same dynamic. Now you obviously have turned it into something amazing, but we alluded to the journey of your life. Do you mind taking us to the point of we'll call it like walking through what got you here, right? Why do people listen to you? Why do you have that?
Man, so back to the college days, I'd see guys like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn. These were guys that I really looked up to. And it was like kind of like there's this DNA, I call it a calling. There's a calling inside of me that's like, you're supposed to be doing that on a stage, impacting, influencing. And I actually wanted to be a teacher because teachers had impacted my life. Well, get into the NFL, do the NFL thing, I'm done. I start doing mortgages and real estate back in 03, 04, 05. And we're killing it, man. Like just printing money. Got a 6,000 square foot home, $500,000 worth of vehicles in the garage. My oldest, who's 16 now, he's a baby on my chest. I'm sitting there in this huge house. And brother, my soul was empty. It wasn't like money was bad. I just was like, I knew, like when you know you're supposed to be doing something, not this, but something that looks like helping people to change their life. And I knew that. Like I knew that was always in me. In college, hey, we need a football player to go speak. I'm like, I'll go. Like very natural to get on the stage and perform and speak. So let's get into this industry. And then my businesses were tied to the mortgage industry. The recession of 08 hits. Yeah. And man, we got killed, man. Like I was shell shocked. I wasn't skilled. I was in an industry that was easy. So we start to lose everything. And when I say lose everything, like we get evicted out of our home the week of Thanksgiving in 08, 09, like no money. And my wife's like, we can't even, like, we're now in a 900 square foot townhome. We used to have, 8 figures worth of real estate, all gone. And she's like, what are we going to do? And I knew I had something that I could go sell that had high monetary value. It was a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots. So I get on a plane, I'm bawling my eyes out, man. I'm sobbing to New York to give it to a collector. Takes the ring, gives me cash. I come home, and a year later, I still cannot get businesses off the ground. So I file a bankruptcy. Big Chapter 7. And by 2011, I'm like, dude, I'm mid-30s. I'm broke. Have no idea. I'm depressed. I'm overweight. I'm like, dude, what happened to my life? Like one moment I'm multi-7-figure earner. The next moment, nothing's working. That was 2011. And today, I live on a beach here in Destin, Florida. I have an amazing team. We do events. I get paid to speak. I get paid to change people's lives, solve their problems. And I love what I do, man. Like I had to go through. Yeah. For me, like I went through this dark pit, the valley of darkness. Like I had to really dig deep and say, am I going to say my best days are behind me? Or can I say my best days are now? And fortunate that I was able to come through that and rebuild and reinvent myself.
Yeah, it's a big one, man. I mean, all of that. I at one point was in a 500 square foot studio apartment. My kids on an air mattress. This is after the NFL too, dude. You're saying these things and my heart's going, oh, like it's a feeling, and it's this thing where you go back to it. And I think the unique thing that you've done, I think a lot of people do, is it wasn't a stopping point, right? Like whatever it was that was pushing you past, you kept going, because some people are still stuck there. Some people have not come out of that place. Yeah. So I love that you kind of found your way out. What was the catalyst to you moving though? Like to get, because I mean, I want to know that space, because I know you purposely did that. Like at this point, I'm here, right? Yeah. But because there had to have been a catalyst moment, because you're down to your luck. You're sitting there in this little spot. You file bankruptcy, and it's like everything hits. And most people, that's the death sentence. That's their life. What was the catalyst to getting you into the motion now?
So we're like 4 years into this. I can't figure my life out, man. And I don't know, I get emotional about this, but I've got 2 kids at the time. I can't pay the bills, but my heart, man, and my heart knew, Setema, you were born for more than this, and you better figure this out, or else the consequence is going to be your boys are going to be like, well, that's my dad. You know, he played football like 30 years ago. Like, I never wanted them to be like, my dad's highlights were NFL. Like, no way. I also looked at my beautiful wife and I'm like, I wanted her to be proud. I thought about my parents crossing the Pacific Ocean. And there was just a lot of spiritual work. Like, it was just like, man, do I stay stuck and struggle and stagnant, or do I move? So spring of 2011, I'm getting recruited to go knock doors. And I'm like 35 at the time. Like, no, I'm not going to go knock doors as a door-to-door salesman. I've made 7 figures before. And I'm telling you, man, I knew there was something more out there for me. Like, I knew it. And that was a tipping point. I went to knock doors as a door-to-door salesman. Brother, it was over. I was done. It's like, I'm going to go win this thing. I'm going to go dominate this thing. And that first summer of 2011, right, of knocking doors, changed my life. Like, it was like I had to roll my sleeves up. I had to go learn how to sell. I'm with 20-year-olds, like 19, 20, 22, like, and I'm a grown man. So I'm married with kids. I made money. So no one worked harder than me. And then, you know, more on the spiritual note. And I just was like, God, I know you put me on this earth for more. I know it. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, you know, I'm going to fly to South Carolina. Y'all going to pack up the car in 6 weeks and drive across the country. We are not coming back home until this thing is done, until I make the money we're going to make in the next 20 weeks. And that started everything, because I just knew, like, I couldn't do this anymore. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to stay stuck. And there's just this fire inside of me that was like, and I'll tell you, Anthony, there was a moment where, and I've shared this on different podcasts, but my son is pouring cereal, and he's pouring milk in the cereal. He's, 3 years old. And I'm yelling at him for pouring too much milk and wasting milk. And I'm like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I'm like literally screaming at him. And I'm like, dude, not this. So that tipped for me to go knock doors, and then the knocking of the doors, recruiting, selling, door to door, living in apartments, living in hotels. Like, for 3 years, man, I became an assassin, a sales, my confidence, my bank account. Yeah. And that's what got me started, man.
I like that, man. There's so much in that. So our future brand of the entire company, because I do a work in identity, it's always been about this shift method. It's been making a shift of who you are. Because I'm hearing that, and the cool thing is, everybody that's somebody in some manner that the world gets to see. They didn't get there accidentally. There's something that they did that became somebody new. They turned into some. You're new. Guarantee if I go back to who you were at that time, it's a different way you think, process, operate, function. Has to be, or you wouldn't be where you're at. And I look at that as like what I call dark work. It's the work you do in the dark that allows you to shine in the light. So like our future to company is all about that dark work you do. And I think people, it sounds sexy. It sounds good. Like, it's like, oh yeah, cool dark work. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, that's the hardest thing you're going to do, man. There's a lot. You alluded to it twice. There's spiritual stuff. I think most people assume that, people like we both played the NFL and you do that journey. It's like, oh, tough, rigid. But there is something that if you don't tap into the spiritual part of whatever base it is, you lack what I think you need, whether it's faith or it's, the ability to tap into something more to pull, to go to the next level you went to. And then I find that you talk about this fire. There is that fire that gets lit, that it's like a quiet fire. It's not the boisterous, look, I'm going to do this. It's like this quiet, seething, consistent, discipline build. For you, when you're doing that, was there anything, simple way to ask it, did anybody count you out? Because I know there's a lot of conversations that people go like, oh, this guy's done. He's done for. And that becomes sometimes a driving point for people to go like, oh man, I can't do it. And I had those happen. And then when I tap in that part of me that knows there's something more, it gives me that fire when I don't have it. Did you find yourself having to be your own fire at times?
Yeah, because when I made this mortgage money, it was really my first money. NFL money was like, it was cool, but it wasn't like the mortgage real estate hard money. Like that, I had a 4-year window where money was unreal, but I'm going to say it. I was not skilled. I was a hustler. I was in a great industry where it was easy to make money because when the recession hit, it's like you can tell who really has skill. It's like Warren Buffett says, when you can tell who's swimming naked when the tide moves. And
That's cool.
Right. And so it's like there were people who really kind of made fun of us. They're like, man, Setema went and got all these $200,000 cars, $100,000 cars, big homes. He was doing his thing. And now look at him now. Look at him now. Like, I hope he learned his lesson. And it used to come back to my wife and she would tell me, and I'm like they don't know us.
Yeah.
They don't know my heart. Like, my heart is pure. Like, I'm like, this was never about the stuff, man. It was like, we're going to go help people. We're going to go liberate people. We're going to go touch hearts and souls. And like, I basically, it's like you said, I was not looking for some light at the end of the tunnel, man. I was lighting the light, the fire in the darkest of the darkest night. And brother, I could not be stopped, man. I'm telling you, I was relentless. I was ruthless. I was fierce. I was like, never took a day off of knocking doors. I was an assassin on the doors. My sales skills. I mean, I was just, you couldn't stop me, man. And
I like
here
it.
we are. Yeah.
Hey, I like it. So that literally goes to the quote I like the quote for our company is, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light.
Yes. I love that.
It's this, right? It's a competitive spirit, it's a flow to it. And it is, it's integrous. It's like, it's not like I deserve this. And like, I've done too much work in this to be able to, like you said, I'm an assassin, man. I'm not going to lose. There's no way. It's not in the cards. It's just that little thing. It's a stumbling block. It doesn't stop me. And I wanted to get all that out. I wanted to get that core because I want to step into the space of what you do now and who you are and how you function. So let's just go to the direction of like, I want to be able to, if you could outline who is the kind of person that you love to serve, because there's a lot of people that are in that place, but let's say if you could pick a person, you wake up in the morning, I love that kind of human. What's the kind of human that you want to work with?
So I work with leaders. Like, one of our core statements is we coach, build, liberate, and lead leaders. So entrepreneurs, business owners, even with even if you're not an entrepreneur, but you are a leader of your home, leader of an organization, maybe it's a church. Like, I work with men and women who are up to big things, who are up creating big things. And because I know if I impact one leader, I impact countless people. If I help a mother who maybe is a business owner, an entrepreneur, producer, you help one woman, man, you change an entire generation. So leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, just people who are up to big things and creating results that matter. Those are the people I love to serve and help.
I like it. And those are the hardest prey to catch. We'll call it when it comes, because I work with some of the same kind of humans. And the interesting thing is it's a blast when they're bought in, but they're slow to kind of figure it out because they've had some journeys themselves. What do you find becomes one of the biggest stumbling blocks in the beginning of your work to getting them to actually open up and buy in?
So one of the biggest things is that I'd say stumbling block is like when you're, let's say one of my clients, right? 1,000 employees. Mm-hmm. When you are the man or the woman who's got hundreds or 1,000 employees, nobody calls you on your stuff. Nobody calls you the carpet. So one of the first frames that we set with our clients is like, I'll look at them, I'll talk to them. My team obviously handles a lot of this now, but I'm like, if we're going to work together, I'm going to invite you to make a real commitment to me to be 100% transparent, real, honest, truthful about everything. And if you cannot do that, we just don't work together. Because unless I can get someone to tell me the whole truth and all the truth and the real ugly, like all of the truth, there's nothing I can teach them or do with them, because all they have to do is hide and pretend and posture. So once I get our clients to be just super real and honest and raw, it's game over. Once they open themselves up to the truth begins to liberate them. And then we can just address, hey, where are you really at? What's going on in your marriage? Why is this number this way? What's going on? And once people stop pretending and stop lying, like endless possibilities. But that's the biggest thing. And we can get people, again, when I'm getting leaders who call the shots, write the checks. Nobody talks to them that way that I would talk to them, and I can hit them hard with just some very powerful use of words and intention. That's it, man. Then it's smooth sailing. Yeah.
Yeah. I say, I found it's the ego, everyone's greatest obstacle. It's like this thing where like we can go in, you can sit here and tell them all the good stuff, but then like they want to work on what they want to work on, but they don't realize that what you need to work on, you don't want to work on. And then if I can get you to get to that place, it's like, oh, like that it pervades different parts of your life. You will see it in your marriage. You will see it in your health. You'll see it. So it is pulling that layer back, and it's difficult, man. People will fight and claw and clamor for that ego. And usually when they're not, let's put it this way, this is a different kind of conversation, but it's the same pocket. My wife is, I love my wife to death, but she is the only person who, at her level in life, in her family, her career, she's a multi-million-dollar business. She's the head of that thing. I am the only person that sits at the table next to her, we'll call it, and we'll call it in that, the area, you get it, like the family household.
Yeah.
So there's times when I got to kind of call her on some stuff, and vice versa. We both do it by all means, but man, does she hate when I do it. And so like, she is not my client, but I have conversations like, hey, love, your ego's riding right now. Like, can we put it in the stable for a second? Can we just have this conversation? But I look at that and I go, it's a lot of the same thing that leaders have. And not even just leaders, everybody has, because we all like to, we like to make ourselves feel good. I want to go to bed feeling good. But when you uncover that thing, I go, oh, I don't know. But it's like, yeah, I can make you feel good now. But if I don't tell you what you need to hear now to help you have the uncomfortable stuff here, I am liable for your discomfort later. If you continue to keep having this problem and you hired me and I didn't help you avoid that, that's I feel bad on that aspect. So like digging is a hard part to get it done and you move. Do you mind sharing like what the process is? Cause not the whole thing of what you guys do, but I know there's got to be some, we'll call it staples, main points of like the journey that people should go through on the path to where you're talking about getting to that point of feeling liberated and being a great leader at some point.
Yeah, look, it's when there's a human being who knows they're called to lead and they have responsibility and stewardship. But for us, it's just getting, whether it's someone you work with or just any leader, like you got to stop lying, right? In your words, it's like you need to show the ego and like they put the ego aside. You got to tell the truth about what current reality is. What's the real truth about where your marriage is, your intimacy, your connection, sex? What's the truth with the money, right? Your numbers, your net to gross, or your top, bottom, your projections, 1, 2, 3, 6 month, 12 month. Like, what's your marketing strategies? Are they effective? And when we can get people to be super truthful, like that's the step. When a leader can get real and allow themselves to be raw. Like again, we're in a society where a lot of people don't want to be real and raw. They want to put the right filter up for social media. They want to say the right things so they look super smart. For us, it's like we get our people to be real. Any leader to just tell the truth. Stop lying. Stop lying about where they're at. Stop lying about what's not working. Stop lying about what is working. They can start to tell the truth and then live in accordance with just principles that work and that govern. We can move and accelerate a leader towards breaking what we call old self-gravity, right? Who they've been trained, taught, and educated to believe. And we self-gravity. We just break that OSG, right? And if it's 45 years of living, their OSG is they've been trained, taught, and educated to believe certain things that are not necessarily true or even useful. So we start to reprogram, rewire, recalibrate who they're being, aka your identity and how they see themselves. We reprogram how they see the world and what the real truth is. And then we help them to create possibilities. And I mean, brother, it's just, we have protocols and systems that allow people, and again, our clients are amazing, man. Whether they go run Ironman, lose 150 pounds, net their first 7 figures, more importantly, they're happy in their lives, they're happy with their children. Like they stop lying. I love the work that we do with people. And again, it's the same space you're in, my man, transformation.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a unique bubble. We do similar things, different ways of doing it, which I think is a cool thing because there's people that definitely would fit with me and not with you and vice versa. I think it's the awesome part about this industry is there's a lot of people that need help. And I don't have to look at this and go, oh, it's competitive. It's not. It's like I honor and respect those who are out doing the work, like the things you're doing because it's needed. It does. It trickles into so many different parts of life and ways that things take place. At this point, I'm getting calls, from kids like, thank you for my my dad's adjustments and changes. My wife's like, I know my husband's would work with you. I've never reached out, but I want to thank you so much because it's done this and this. And it's like, dang, I didn't realize, but that was why I was doing it. Like that was the fun part. That's what light me up a little bit. It gives me more of a purpose for what I'm out here doing. But I do know this. I do know that there's a part of me that's always making sure, like, am I the guy to lead this? Like actually praying, like, God, am I doing it right? Am I showing up right? Because I never want to walk into a room or some space ever in my life and have somebody go, oh, but I know this about you. So I live a clean life in the dark because what you do in the dark comes in the light. And so my question is like, how do you consistently yourself show up in your own life to where you feel the confidence you have, which I can feel, to be the guy leading people like them? So like walking through, like, how do you focus on your marriage? How do you focus on parenting? How do you focus on the business? Like, what is your dynamic and dance or harmony of your own life?
Got it. So there's some non-negotiables for me in what we teach. Date night weekly with my wife, non-negotiable. I take my oldest. We leave at 5:15 in the morning, take him to early morning seminary. I then come home, hit the gym, pick up my two youngers, my two littles, they're not little, drop them at school. Those two littles come to my office, so they're here with me every day. The number of family vacations on the calendar every year, summer, winter, evenings, most evenings, right? We're family prayer, family scripture, family counsel. Yeah. I mean, last night we were at a movies, President's Day, so we literally get home, everyone's just like, I love you, hug, good night, like it was done.
Ant-Man? You go see Ant-Man?
Yeah, we went to the Ant-Man.
All right. Oh, it's not too good.
Yeah, and then it's just like having agreements in our home that's like, hey, we talk about everything. Like we talk about everything. And I am unafraid to have real conversations with my boys. I got 3 boys, so I know what's coming up for them in regards to girls, drugs, pornography, God, spirit, faith, earning, grades, like the whole thing. And then of course we live in agreements in my home, right? One of our principles is agreements, not expectations. So we have these agreements. My wife and my sons can count on me to do my job, and I count on them to do their job. And again, we function as a team. And then it's just like, if I mess up, which I mess up quite a bit as a father, as a husband, like I fall short, I'm impatient. Sometimes I don't always keep my word. Sometimes I'm late, but I just apologize and then clean it up. There's no need to do the whole guilt and shame downward spiral. Then we just clean it up and move on. And through the date nights, the conversations, the daily touches, the scriptures, the prayer, the sports, the training, like I know my time invested in them is one of the best things I can do. And I tell my sons, like I tell them point blank, like when you're your own man and when you're this age, you're going to have these desires. And when you're at this age, you're going to want to do these things. And, I'll show them my bank accounts once a month. My boys see the business book. So they see money and they're like, dude, we're freaking rich. I'm like, no. We are not rich. You are not rich. And like, it's just relative, son. I want my sons to just be well-versed spiritually, physically, emotionally, intellectually, and just relationally. So that's really, there's no perfect thing for me. It's like the date nights, the mornings, the evenings, the time. I don't take my phone. I leave my phone downstairs. So we have like a 3-story home because we live on the beach, right? So they go straight up. And I leave my phone either in the truck or right at the bottom. I don't take it up because when I get home, I want to be present with my kids. When I'm in the bedroom, I want to be present with my wife. I don't need to be making love to my phone. So there's just little tiny things that allow me to be present and to be in their lives. And so that our memories are not us on electronics. It's us with each other.
Yeah, man, it's hard. And I don't know what your journey to that was, but my journey was like breaking it. Like we had divorced everything because I was that guy. I was gotta get the phone, do this thing, I'd eat dinner, back to the laptop, and it was, it had all come apart for me to put it back together. And now I operate in a very similar way. My son and I'm up at 5:30. He gets up at 6:25. We do this hike, full plunge, meditate, give him a hug, tell him I love him, he's off. And there's like that time spent with him. My daughter, I train her, so there's time spent with her. And if I ever get a moment like just take her on a dad date, on a dad date, we went to Boba the other day and we sat there and I listened to her stories that have no relevance to my life about little kids at middle school, but she wants to talk about it. So I want to hear all about it. My wife and I, we spend the day together most of the time. If I have a break, I hang out with her in the living room. She has her own business and she runs it. So we just kind of sit and chill, have our date nights, but it's the same dynamic. And my brain goes to, like, everybody asks, well, how exactly how do I do what you do? And I go, well, my thing fits for me. Like, we do at dinner, every dinner's sitting down, we pray before every meal, and we always have this thing, good day, bad day. It was a good part of the day, bad part of the day. It's a great way to have a genuine get to know you conversation. And my son in college, we FaceTime him, put him at the end of the table sometimes, and we just have him sit there with us because he's up in college. But what do you think are some of, like, if you were to say, hey, you can't, mine is mine, yours is yours. What are the things someone should think about when they come to creating that? Because that is life. It's not the beach and hanging out and all that stuff. That's life. It's the phone down. It's with the kids, with the wife. So if you're focusing on these highlight moments, you're going to miss it. What do you think are some core elements for people to think about for those moments?
Yeah, I think just asking the right questions, right? How do I want to experience my life with my family? And by experience, it's our phrase is, and I got this from Brendan, right? Daily life experience, right? What's the daily life experience I want to have? Yeah. How do I want my sons or daughters? I got sons. How do I want my sons to remember us? And it's for certain, it's not looking at a phone. I want my sons to remember my dad. He taught us. He worked out with us. We threw the ball. He trained us. He showed us how to do things. We watched. I mean, it was last Friday night. It's me and my son and my wife. We're watching a movie together on the couch. It's just us three, right? Because the other two are out. But if you ask those specific questions, how do I want to experience life? How do I want my kids to remember? How do I want to remember the experience? And, am I willing to go do what's required to get this thing that I desire? And if people just be real, like, dude, let's be real. It's like that. It's so fast. I got a 16, 13, and 10-year-old. So like every day, right? Again, I break my day up into 4 quarters, right? Mine's like 5 to 9, 9 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 to sleep. So my 2 middle, second, third quarter, that's my business. Last quarter is like family. And the first quarter, aside from the drop-offs, is a lot of my personal time and study, the gym, the car. And if I can just win, if I can just win each quarter, I win my day. And if I can win my days and consistently string those winning days together, I'm going to win, period. And I love what you said, Ed. Like, the real life is not the highlight moments on social media. Real life is what most people will never see. Those moments that you're connecting, you're listening, you're having to just be quiet as a parent and like, just let me listen to my son, or let me just listen to my wife. As much as I want to coach and help them, let me just listen. And those are the real moments, man. And you said it best. I love that's real life.
It is. It's been fun. And I think you actually settle into, there's something to the allure of all the stuff you mentioned earlier, which is why I think, when we have, like, you had the money, not skill, but like I wouldn't get the car and that stuff, there's an allure to that. But like you said, I was sitting with my son on my chest and it wasn't fulfilling. And I think it's because we're drinking the wrong thing, man. We're drinking what the world tells us we should want. And the reality is, it's like I'm satiated in life to where I don't have a desire to have all these winged. I'm not knocking the cars in the house by any means. It's just that's not the thing that makes me feel fulfilled. That stuff is amazing to celebrate. Like, I bought my wife for Christmas a 66 Mustang. She's wanted since we were in high school. I was like, all right. She's like, I couldn't find a present for her. I was like, I'm gonna get this. And I found one nearby and got it. And to be honest, like, the money they count means nothing compared to like the joy in her face when somebody goes, hey, nice car. And she could see her kind of gush a little bit. I'm like, that's what it is. And then there's no videos of that. It's just me and her and giving. And that's the moments I get to share that stuff with someone I have a great relationship with. That's the beauty of it all. And that's built the way you're talking about, the values, the moments, the principles to how you show up and do things. And so, like, I hear these things and I go, this is all great for us. But some people go, but I'm not Setema. I'm not Anthony. Like, how does somebody become that? I have my opinions, but I want to know your opinions, your thoughts on how does someone get to that point?
Yeah, great question. So I keep it simple. I just, like, you got to make a decision. Got to make a decision. Do I want to stay on the path that I'm on? Do I want to continue down the current path that I'm on? Do I like what it looks like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, based upon what I'm currently doing? And if not, then we got to make a decision. Like, what am I going to do different? And I just said, like, what you do is based upon what you want. And if you can just begin to have ambition and aspiration again, like, what do you really want? and again, a lot of people, their old self-gravity, they're like, it doesn't let them dream anymore. They've just given up. My words are always like, look, if someone's doing it, if someone's living it, you can too. You're going to have to go figure out what's the mindset that needs to shift. What's the skill sets that need to be developed? What are the tool sets you need to go put inside of the tool belt so you know how to handle pressure, stress, marketing, sales, whatever thing you're trying to build? And then is your heart set and your soul set aligned? And I'm like, look, let's just start. Let's just set the first goal and let's just turn the ship 1 degree. Yeah. And then let's just go start knocking what we call necessary required actions. And if a person doesn't believe, there's no point. So someone's got to have this faith. They got to believe. There's got to be a piece of them that just, even it's the tiniest degree of like, okay, I believe something. I believe that's the starting point. And then from there, it's like, don't quit, man. Like keep going. Don't quit.
Yeah. I got windows. I remember like that whole concept of dark work. It actually started when I was 15 at a moment in time where I realized like I was giving up on the game of football, wasn't going to be good. Some girl said something, woke me up. And I remember going home and having this choice. I looked in the mirror, literally at 15, looked in the mirror, my pupils. I go, Anthony, you're going to be great. And I don't know why I did it. It was the weirdest thing for a little 15-year-old kid to be doing. If you walked in, you'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Like it'd be weird. But that was that decision. It's funny when you make the decision, how things kind of roll in the direction and everything else slides off your back and you kind of move. But I think you're talking about is if you haven't made that, then you don't do the necessary required action. You don't lean into that kind of process. And I know there's a specific thing that I'm thinking as to what helps that come to pass. And I know the way you guys show up, like I've seen videos of you like on the beach with the water, people doing the cool stuff. Why did that become a unique thing for you guys in terms of how to deliver to people? Why was that the vehicle?
I went through something similar. I went through like this boot camp program and it just woke me up like, because I'm an athlete, right? We're athletes. And sometimes athletes forget that there's an athlete, but there's a beast inside there. So we forget, and we kind of forget that we were champions once. We forget that we were competitors. And when I had this experience for myself, I'm like, wait a minute. I remember when you break someone down physically, there's so many lessons. So we started doing, it was like a 2-day, then a 3-day, then we tested 5 days. Now we're in 4 days. So we're like, we run these 4-day things and people just forget, man. And they just forget how powerful they really are. And look, we could sit in the classroom or in a seminar and talk about it. It's a different ball game when someone has to carry an 80-pound bag for 10 miles, or they have to crawl and do stuff that they want to quit. They want to give up. And I'm like, and when they can push through physically, there's this breakthrough that they're like, dude, I can do way more. I can do way more than I think I can. And it's like so experiential, so real. Again, we can sit in the classroom all day and be like, I can do more. That's one thing. And we do that. But you actually go put someone in physical duress and they're forced to tap into that dark, right? That warrior, that beast, and then actually push and be like, dude, I found it. So we couple the physical then with the spiritual, then we couple that with the business, then we couple that with relationships. And when we start to put the whole curriculum together, it's just this transformational, like people come and when they leave, they look different, they talk different, they'll go home and change everything.
I get it, man. I love it. It's like, that's kind of the thing that I like. I want to know how that happened. I always want to know like how, right? And so I started looking at a lot of stuff. And there is something like that we don't pay attention too much to. But what you're pretty much saying is, and this is the words that I use from science that I found, is I look at it and go, okay, well, how does someone become different? How are we who we are different from we were 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? And what ends up happening is people realize there's a level of what's called eustress, or stress that's like traumatic and it could be bad, right? But there's also eustress, beneficial stress. There's found that certain levels of stress, in fact, make our brain code new proteins that unravel more of our DNA. So when you present the stress you're giving people, they're actually becoming more of who they're supposed to be at a genetic level. I love that. I go, oh man, it makes so much sense. And then beyond that, like the work that I do in identity type stuff, you say, look different, walk different. They actually are different. And the reason they are is because who they were when they walked into that door, the first day when they just looked you in the face and go, man, I'm ready to rock and roll. They have become that person based on specific experiences that neurologically and psychologically wired them to be that person. And the only way to become the person they desire, because I don't think you could have a dream above your current identity, you have to have more experiences. You said that. You have to experience it because it does do something completely separate from what thinking about it does. And when you've experienced it, it literally rewires your way you approach something problematically, optimistically, negatively. But you neurologically rewire your brain. You code yourself differently, protein wise, genetically. But you also psychologically go, wait, I did too much work to lose this right now in my business, in my marriage. So like, I love that you've done it literally scientifically. What you are doing 1000% works. And I love it because of that too.
Thank you, man. I've been doing this since 14. So 9 years, man. And we've just gotten better and better. And again, I call this the voice, right? We listen to the voice, we adjust. We'll adjust evolutions. We'll adjust things to really customize and tailor it to the people in the room. Man, it's a very spiritual, it's a sacred work. I tell people like my work is hearts and souls. It's hearts and souls. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's literally what I mean. It's like, it's someone's heart and it is their soul, identity, how they see themselves and or create themselves. And when we can get someone to see the truth about who they really are and what they could create about themselves, it's like game over, man. We just get out of the way and that they take off.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I genuinely do. I think for me, the way that I look at it is I understand that there's certain levels of people that are meant to do certain things. And I can tell obviously you're meant to do it, but I'm just thankful that you did it. Like there's a lot of people who have that same little voice, man, and they go, nah, shut that voice up real quick. I don't want to feel like that. But you leaned in, and I got a great deal of respect for a person who does that, because it does, man. If you don't understand that it's a gift you have, you don't give it, and you rob the world of the gift of you. And then on top of that, like if you take that and don't steward that gift well, you damage your own life in the process. Then you live incongruent, and then it's like the pastor who gets caught for doing something crazy, and then all the people in the congregation go, oh man, question their faith. So I love that you're congruent with what you do, because it serves at a high level, man. Genuinely have appreciated this conversation. I got two final questions I'm going to ask. Yeah. First question is, where can people find you? I believe you have something coming up here. I want to say in August in Vegas. I'm not mistaken. Your team let me know. But if you don't mind sharing that stuff and the details.
You got it. You go to Game Changer 4. Game Changer. I'm actually wearing the shirt, right? Game Changer 4, the number 4.com. It's actually in April. We have a conference, our 4-day experience. So people are like, well, what's the difference between that and like the physical experiences that we call immersion? I'll tell people, look, immersion, very few people will come because it is a physical beatdown. It is a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. But there's people who they would learn from us, but they don't want to do that. So when we do what's called, this is the 4th Game Changer we're doing, the experience to be inside of the room, like when people actually come through, they're like, their words are always this. I mean, I knew it was going to be great, but what I felt and what I experienced and what I heard and what I saw, like you have to be here. Very difficult to describe that very spiritual, sacred work that we do with hearts and souls. So Game Changer 4, it's April 26th through 29th. It's going to be a phenomenal experience. We do ours a little different. It's not 5,000 people in the room. It's not even 1,000. We've limited it to about between 100 to 150 people. We keep it very small, very intimate, and that's it, man. And again, if people want more, I tell people like go to my site, which is my first and last name, right? Setema Gali, SETEMAGALI.com, and that has everything there. But Game Changer 4, that's going to be the game changer, and that's it, man. I mean, I appreciate it.
You keep saying that's it. That's not. That mean that it is it, but it's big. It's a big it. Like I'm like, oh, don't. Yeah, it's it. It's one of those things, man, that you do. I've gone a few things in life where you walk out of there different because you finally tapped into that point, that place, and then you leave with accountability. You have camaraderie with the people you're with. Like people keep you accountable, and you do look back a year later, and that becomes that was the moment that it changed. And so, if you guys are listening, go there. Game Changer 4. Final question. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
What promise did God make to the world when he created me? I love this question. The promise that God made to the world, that he was going to send someone named Satema who would be bold and courageous to help people remember who they were and who they are and who they could become. And like, I'm going to go unleash that. I will help people to unleash all of that especially when they forget. And a lot of people forget. I did. And I'm grateful that someone helped to liberate my soul. And that's his promise. He's like, I'm going to send one. He's going to be about 6'4", 290. And he's going to go like bring hammers and like break people open and help them. So that was his promise. And I love what we do, my man. I appreciate you for having me today.
I think there's something to it where people always like, how'd you get here? We talked about that. How did I get here? And I find that in life, man, there's certain things that it didn't make sense why God made me how he made me until I realized where we're supposed to be plugged into, right? Like a person like yourself, people need to have, there's a stature, there's a confidence, there's a vulnerability to you that it's a pattern interrupt. Enough for people that are grown men who wouldn't listen to many people to go like, I'm gonna listen to that dude, right? But for the dude they're listening to be of the right heart to listen or be listened to, so to speak. So like, because anybody could look the part and do the part, but you have the right heart to enter in. So I think that there's just watching your life, I'm like, there's a reason God made you how he made you, pushed through what he put you through, develop what he did, all that craziness so that when you go into the world, you can actually watch people that are going to be the ones that need the service, which typically is like stoic, standoffish men, but it opens the door when they be, oh, NFL, big dude doing it. Okay. So I see that, man. Appreciate that.
But I gotta say, man, thank you. You said something just barely, and that's so true. Like I was always like, man, why am I so emotional? Why do I love people so much? Like I love people easily. I trust people easily. And it has become like one of those greatest things. I'm like, I can love people and have met them for the first time. I just have so much love for them. And a love is not just, I'm gonna be kind. I'll be direct. I might punch someone in the throat if they need that. Out of love.
I get it.
Out of love. And so I love what you shared. Like, it's so true, man. Guys like us, I think growing up before the internet, before the courses, before all the things that we have now, I was like, how am I supposed to go do this thing? How am I supposed to go really make a difference? And now we have opportunities and you're doing it. So thank you so much, man. I love what you shared.
Ditto, man. We got to keep in touch, man. If I make it to Florida, I'm going to come hang out and catch a workout, all the fun stuff.
Yes.
All right. You guys, thanks so much for tuning in, hanging out. If you want to go find out more about what he's talking about, go to GameChanger4.com. If something resonated, take a note, apply it. Like you said, just make that simple decision. That one decision could change everything for your life. And if you know someone who needs this, maybe you are listening as a woman, you go, man, my husband needs this conversation. Share the episode. You never know what that one simple share can do to change somebody's life long-term, so please share it. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your odd shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks. It's Setema Gali. Signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Oz Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.